Football season, full swing. You guys ready for it?
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah, another. I ordered up the weather today, 75 degrees. So I don't want to make you guys stand out there in a 100-degree heat. So we'll off a little bit for you. And which has been good for our players. We've gotten a lot of good work in. So first, I'll take Reese first. So with the the eligibility situation there, we welcome Reese back. He had another year based on those rules, and wanted to come back. And certainly, he was a great teammate for us last year, and so we welcome him back. We'll see what happens with this process. That's all out of our control. There are multiple other legal situations going on that directly or indirectly involve him. But as it stands right now, we'll proceed with the current, what appears to be the current ruling, and it'd be great to have him with the second year being able to build off of what he did last year, if that's actually comes to fruition. We've had the acclimation period here, and that's been good. We've had the players go from helmets to the helmets and spiders and uppers, and we were in full pads yesterday. Today we will be back down as part of the conclusion of the acclimation period, and so that's been a big teaching time for us. We've gotten probably at least 75%, maybe a little bit more than that in terms of our schemes, of our plays, and all that. There's still some things that we have to put in, but we have by far and away the majority of everything in. We've been able to run it for multiple days, and I would say the competition really starts this week. When we're in pads, everybody's had multiple opportunities to run these plays, and now we'll compete and see how it comes out. So there's always a little bit of a learning curve, and we got a lot of that done in the spring. But this acclimation period, which tempers a little bit the physical side of the game and so forth, that now that we're able to get into that, we can actually run things at the speed and tempo as close as possible in practice as will be in the game. So that'll really be the next 10 days or so. Really be the real competition part of the year for us. I don't think you can have a competition, with helmets. We need more than that to evaluate, what everybody can do and so forth. So we're excited to get that process started really tomorrow. Again, today's a little bit of a down day to finish those acclimations because we had a pad day yesterday, but going forward, tomorrow we'll start to pick that back up, and that'll go all the way through next week until classes start. We get into a regular, kind of a regular routine with classes and practice in the afternoon and so forth. And then, I just want to let everyone know that my son Steve's on medical leave, and look forward to getting him back as soon as possible. That's a medical situation, so I really can't make any further comment on that. Brendan?
We'll get it started. Brian, go ahead.
Hi, Bill. I guess I'll follow up on Steve. I hope he's doing okay. Do you expect him back for the season opener, or is this something that may linger into the
As
season?
soon as possible.
You mentioned Reese. Are you guys looking at adding any other of these players who may or may not have become eligible due to the rulings in Colorado and various places across the country?
Well, again, there's a number of things out there, but Reese went here, so that really made him eligible based on one set of rulings. There are other rulings out there that are in dispute, and so similar to I think the situation at the end yesterday, Coach Benny talked about. Pretty much the same thing here. He's coming back to the school that he was at last year, and that's where it's at. We look forward to having him back, but we'll see what the final rulings are. We're in a little bit of a temporary situation now.
Noah, you're in the front row.
Hey Bill, specifically on the edge with Donovan and Jaylen, you've been around them now for quite a bit of time. What do those guys do best that can complement Melcart off the edge?
Yeah, all three of those players are really good players. They've all had production at a high level. Again, every player has a different skill set, but those three players can all play the position. They can all play it well, and they all do a lot of things well. But there's always things that they can work and improve on, and working together with their teammates, because a lot of that involves when you're at the end of the line, it involves the secondary player, the force player, the safety, possibly a corner. and certainly the adjacent lineman or linebacker that's on your side of the ball. So, as much as the specific skills are important, working in conjunction with those players about who's going to fit where, who's inside, who's outside, what kind of pass rush game we're going to run if we get a pass or not run, and so forth. So a lot of that is just working together with their teammates, and also when you have edge rushers, like these two guys that run into each other at the end of the rush. So there's also coordination on either edge of one guy's up to the other guy under, things like that.
Right
Well,
next
real quick, if I can follow up, specifically with Jaylen Harvey, what are some of the things that have stood out? Because obviously he was around last year as well. What are some of the same things?
Fast, he's explosive. He's got a very good skill set. He's strong, fast, and explosive. He likes football. He's a football player. He likes football, likes to practice, likes to compete. Really enjoy that.
Right next to you.
Hey, Bill, they really play different spots at Michigan State and bring some experience that you need back there. Where is he working with you guys? I mean, you kind of moving him all over the place because of that experience and his flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and that's part of what this week is for, is to give him opportunities to play on the perimeter, to play inside, in kind of the nickel position, to play at safety, and also play in the kicking game. So he's another defensive back that's big, fast, he's a good tackler, he's a physical player, and can play multiple spots. So part of it's to kind of expose him to all of it, but also kind of see where it looks like he's most comfortable and where he'll fit in best for us. But I'm glad we have him. He's a good player. He can do a lot of things. As I said, he can play on all four downs in a couple of different spots. So we have a pretty experienced secondary. So we'll see how all that plays out. But he's a good player. I'm glad we have him, and I think he'll find a role. Some of it's based on what he can do. Some of it's also based on where the other pieces move.
Front left here, coach.
Bill, speaking of the secondary, Caleb Coff's one of the few guys that's been around in this program. How have you seen him grow since last year, and how do you anticipate him helping those guys back there this season?
He helps a lot. This will be a 3-year starter really, and you can see that out on the field. He's very experienced. He's plays a position where a lot happens in that nickel spot. You have a guy outside, there's sometimes more than one. You have guys inside, run fours, passing game, play action. Different types of receivers. You can get a big tight end attached out there in 12 personnel. Or you can get some low, quick slot out there that's fast and 175 pounds, and so there's a lot of different guys that he has to cover. But his experience on defense in the kicking game, as a returner, as a cover player, he's another 4-down player that honestly, we could probably leave out there for every single down unless we're on offense, and do a lot of things. We just have to decide what's the best fit for him, and how does it work best with everybody else. Similar to the conversation with Willie, but obviously he's been here longer and just has a lot more experience in the system. But those are good players to have. Caleb's a good tackler. He's a physical player, and that really helps your defense when he's in that interior type of position. But he also can play outside. He's also played safeties, and as I said, he's played all four of the return or all four of the kicking game phases, coverage and returns.
Third row on the left, Sean.
Coach, you mentioned before around shifting responsibilities, the general manager responsibilities. At what point will the program hire an interim, or you'll take on more of a role as a general manager?
Well, I don't know. First of all, we'll see how the process plays out.
Is there a point where you would make that decision to bring someone on to take on those responsibilities?
I don't know. There's a lot of hypothetical questions.
Front row on the right now.
Wanted to ask quickly about your son. Obviously, who is stepping up into that role while he's away?
All the people on the defensive staff. We coach the defense collectively as a staff, and so we'll continue to do that. Those guys are involved with everybody. Bob works with secondary players and linebackers work with DBs, and DBs work with linebackers and so forth. So they do it collectively.
Is there any plan then for play calling wise once the season comes around, or that's something you're just going to wait to see?
Yeah, we'll see.
Go ahead, front row on the left here.
Morning, Bill. One thing Coach Petrino got up here talking about last week was how pleased he was with the depth and the talent in the running back room. How have I guess as a leader in the room emerged for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's a really competitive group, and as I said, the competition really kind of starts, you know, look, it started, I'm not saying that, besides we've been out there, you know, doing watermelon rolls and, you know, badminton and relay races. The competition has started, but to play real football, I think you have to evaluate real football. And so, now that we're done with the acclimation period, which is great, but there's some limitations there, you know, we're ready to start playing, and that's when the evaluation starts. A big part of the running evaluation is, you know, being able to make yards with the ball in his hands on its own. I mean, whatever it's blocked for, it's blocked for. If it's blocked for 2 yards, or it's blocked for 8 yards, you know, can the running back take that 2-yard gain and turn it into 12? Can you take the 8-yard gain and turn it into 30? Or is 8-8, is 2-2, is 4-4? You know, so that's a big part of the evaluation. And we just can't see that until we get into those situations. So, but again, it's very competitive, and you can see skill, you can see speed, power, you know, ability in the passing game. You know, and we'll see when in the next, you know, like I said, week to 10 days, how that really plays out.
Front row on the right, Michael.
Bill, you mentioned before how Jordan Shipp, this is really only his second season of full-time competition. And yet he's emerged as kind of a face of the program in that time.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about him that you think makes him such an effective leader for receivers in the rest of the offense?
Well, he's an effective leader because really 2 things. He works very hard and does his job very well. And so I think everybody on the team respects that. They respect his performance, they respect his work ethic, and he's a great teammate. He is a great teammate. He's not selfish. He looks to, you know, help his teammates, whether it's help younger guys, you know, at his position, or just in general in terms of, you know, in the weight room, or, you know, giving effort in conditioning and things like that. So he can be very supportive to his teammates, but he works hard and he's a productive player. So I think everybody respects that, and so he's a good teammate.
We got time for 2 more, Brian, and then we'll finish up with Andrew.
Bill, one of the things you were known for in the NFL was the ability to change schemes from week to week to adjust to the opponents. I wonder, you've talked about last year not having a lot of guys with a ton of experience, having to put a lot of stuff in fall camp. Do you feel like you'll be able to do more of that this year with guys who've been around the program now since at least January and maybe some longer? You'll be able to make bigger adjustments week to week?
Yeah, Brian, again, I think it just depends on whether that's something that we want to do. I think if you talk to anybody who competed against us at the Giants, they would tell you that we basically ran 1 defense and we had 2 changers. I mean, it couldn't be much simpler than what we did at the Giants. And we had a lot of success there. And if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't change much. And there were times at Cleveland, with Coach Saban, for example, or New England, in some of the playoff games where we would go from 1 defense to kind of a different 3-4 or 4-3, or a man defense or zone defense based on the opponent we were playing. And those teams were very comfortable and flexible in making those kind of adjustments, and it worked out well. We did that some at the Giants too, even in the Super Bowl against Buffalo. That was kind of a new defense for us. And 2 weeks before that, we played the Bears and ran a 4-3, which would be the only time the Giants who actually ran a 4-3. So, again, I just think it depends, Brian. I think it depends on what the offense does, what your, you know, let's say what your choices are on defense. What you need to do is stop them. And playing 1 defense and playing it really well can be a good option, or changing things up and giving the offense different looks can be another option. I wouldn't suggest playing the same defense against Peyton Manning, you know, 50 times a game, which we did at the Giants several times. The same call 50 times in 1 game. But I don't think that's a good way to play Peyton Manning, as an example. You know, unless you want to hear a band play and see the scoreboard light up, then you know that make all those fans happy. But again, I think that's kind of what you're looking at. Or same thing, Brady. You know, in training camp against Brady, you play the same defense. I mean, all you're asking for is just to get sliced up. So against some players like that, you know, in that type of offense, you know, you got to keep it moving. So it just depends. Long answer to a short question. Apologize.
Finish up in the front here, Andrew.
Did you need to scheme with LT?
Well, yeah, because
Well,
no, seriously, because yeah, they did. Look, those great players that had the target on their back every single game for so many years, whether it be Michael Jordan, Lawrence Taylor, Tom Brady, you know, Emmitt Smith, I mean, pick one out, Jim Brown. Like, you go into every game, and that's the guy that the other team's talking about. Like, this is the guy we gotta stop. This is, we gotta get Lawrence Taylor. I mean, he's been double teamed every way, and in some cases triple teamed every way you could do it. Put a tight end in front of him, slide the line to him, chip him with the back, you know, use play action at him, slow him down. I mean, he saw everything and continued to be a productive and a great player every week. Now, you know, we found ways to, you know, to put him in different positions and all that. I think that's a coach's job, is to give the players a chance to be productive. If you don't give them a chance to be productive, then, you know, it's hard for them to produce. But he saw every double team there was. Brady saw every blitz that there was. He saw every coverage that there was. You know, everybody is trying to, you know, going back to tackling, whether it's Jim Brown or whoever. Those guys, Michael Jordan, I mean, you think they weren't looking to, you know, slide the defense to Jordan and double him and force the ball out of his hands and all that, but that's what makes those players great, is they continue to produce at a high level, you know, like LeBron or Kobe, like those guys did. You know, they might have found different ways to do it. And when we brought Kobe in to talk to our team in New England, that was one of the greatest messages that he gave, was that, you know, I can still score, but I couldn't score like I scored when I was in my early 20s. I couldn't just get the ball and drive by anybody. You know, I had to find ways to move without the ball. I had to find ways to create shots for myself that I didn't do when I was in my 20s. So I was just get the ball and drive to the basket. Nobody would stop me. Like, all right, but then that eventually, you know, he had to change his game, and I think that was a great lesson for Brady, Taylor, guys like that you watch them evolve through their career. They found ways to continue to be very, very productive, but maybe it wasn't quite the same thing they did, you know, the first 4 or 5 years of their career.
I wanted to ask specifically about Leroy Jackson and his development. Is he at a point where he can kind of handle every scenario, sort of every down guy?
Yeah, I'm sure he's capable of playing on every down. I mean, I don't think I'd have return punts, but I think he can play on, certainly, on all 3 downs on the defensive side of the ball, running situations, passing situations. He's a smart player, not both on the football field, but also academically. He's a very talented, smart player. Asks a lot of great questions, thinks ahead. You know, I love working with him because he'll think of things that are like a step or two ahead that maybe I haven't gotten to, but I've dealt with before. But now he sees, like, all right, what about this? Like, yeah, that's a really good question. Okay, here's how we would handle that. We haven't got to that yet. That's what, you know, he's got enough foresight to see, okay, this solves this problem, but what if they do this? Now, how do we handle that? And so I love working with him, guys like that. You know, K2, Caleb's like that. Derek, you know, those guys are really, they're very good players, but they also have a good understanding of the total game. Leroy, you know, for a defensive lineman, has a great understanding of, you know, not just his position, but a lot of other stuff that's going on around him.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, great.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bill.
Thanks, fellas.